Excellent, it is working. Alright, let us begin. Let's go live. And welcome to everyone. Welcome to the notification squad. Welcome to the stream to everyone who is streaming in right now. All 5 of you. How are we tonight? That's the wrong one. Here we go. Hi everyone, how are we tonight? Wow, it's been an interesting day. For those who have been following, I just bought myself a couple of new bows, long bows. I've actually got a flat bow, which is the Elven Ranger from Three Rivers Archery, and I have an English longbow. It's the Greyhawk 72-inch English longbow, which I've got right here. In fact, haven't used it yet, but oops, got some stuff stuck onto it. This is a longbow. There we go. So that is the longbow, which I haven't yet shot. This is a beautiful piece of work here. It's so cool shooting these traditional and primitive bows. That is an amazing bow, just as it is right there. How is that? Very keen to try it out once the weather clears. We had some thunderstorms today, but I still shot through it. If you didn't check out my practice video, it's on my channel right now. We shot through a thunderstorm. Which is pretty bad for my health. Hopefully I don't get pneumonia or something, because that's pretty terrible. I feel something coming on, so maybe that was a terrible idea. I'm starting to get a bit of a headache and lose my voice a bit, which is pretty bad. I've got 1 more week of the school term to go, but I do have parent-teacher interviews on Tuesday, and I have to survive through that. And then and it's funny because, you know, teachers are so like into their work and just running flat out for so long that your holidays is often the sick time because you're just running full pelt for the entire term. So that's the quick update. Some shooting some new bows. Really nice to shoot. Now I shoot a horse bow. I've got English longbow, American flat bow, and of course my Olympic recurve. So we're quite diversifying there. Someone mentioned that, yeah, you know, I've been doing a lot of branching out, and I pretty much have. Haven't used this yet though. This is my other Vilmor thumb ring. This is slightly large for me. It's actually the right size, but now that my thumb's swollen a bit, I think it's just right. So interesting little dilemma there. So I've got quite a few thumb rings to try out. But yes, hi, welcome. This is a new microphone. No, it is not. It's simply my old Blue Yeti. But I've placed an extra cover over the microphone. It acts as a pop filter, which I already have one, so it doesn't really matter. Also keeps it clean from spittle and other nasty things. And it's blue, so it kind of looks kind of weird. So I thought I'd just keep it here. So same setup, nothing changes here. Hello, David Simos from Bermuda Archery. Welcome. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, there's nothing going around, but we are reaching the end of summer. It is the end of summer. It's March, hitting April soon, so it's autumn, which means the flu season is basically going to hit us. And hopefully, I mean, last year I didn't get my flu shot because I was already sick. I already had the flu. Oh, it's a cold, I reckon. I think it was the flu. I felt pretty bad, but you know, who knows? You know, cold, bad flu, whatever you call it. Hopefully I survive long enough to get immunized before I come down with pneumonia or something. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I've got quite a few things to get through. I put my post up on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you're asking questions, and I've pre-prepared, at least asked for questions. I've actually thought the answers yet, but I've got quite a few questions. And some of these are really good ones. And I want to focus on a few today. So let's go through. I'll go through my Facebook ones first, and I'll go through my YouTube ones. And every now and then I'll check out chat to see how things are going, because I'm not really following along with the chat. Let's just pop it out there. So quite a few windows to go through. So we'll go through our questions first. If you want to ask questions, just do so towards the end when I have a bit of a break, and then we'll go through and answer them live. So the first few prepared questions are from Facebook now. So first one, by the way, today's archery juice is Pink Lady Apple. Though given today's cold weather, the fact that I might come down with like the cold, probably should be drinking something warm instead. But apple juice is nice, always nice. Shout out, okay, hello. You can see stuff on the screen, so you shout yourself out. Don't need me for that. So, first, why did I start with this question? This is a hard one. Okay, first question comes from Martin Andrews. And this is a very, very good question. So, the question is this. Within my club training and development is a sore topic. That's a good start. The club is ran, like most clubs, by people volunteering their time, meaning some, not all, and of the more experienced archers are reluctant to volunteer to help in the development of novice archers. How do you encourage more experienced archers to get involved in this area? Also, how do you monitor the development of archers within your club? Okay, so I'll take the second one question first. How do we monitor development of archers within our club? We don't. And this is both a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is that, well, people come and go. Actually, no, I wouldn't say this is a good thing. This is just what it is. People come and go and shoot as they will. The difficulty with running a club, and David Seamoss, you will probably understand this just as well as I do, is that it's a compromise between controlling the environment and controlling the culture of the club, so that you want to inspire and motivate people to train, to improve, and to compete. But the other side is that people just want to shoot. Like, they don't necessarily want to take it up as a sport. And this is the dilemma that faces many clubs today. Most clubs are built up around the idea that the club is a place where you go to for the purpose of competing. And this is kind of the case of things like taekwondo dojangs or karate dojos or martial arts schools, where you are naturally led down a competitive path. Not everyone does so, but the idea of ranking and competing and tournaments, they will tend to push you towards competition. And what I'm finding at my club, especially in a very casual environment, very few people will like to do so. Perhaps maybe, in our 30 so members, 5 might go and compete. So it's very hard to ingrain that culture and force it on people when it's really only a small set. So you kind of need to have more people who are involved at competitive level, who are involved in serious training. The other problem we have is that we no longer have a coach. Our coach retired. I'm now the senior archer, just by seniority or veterancy, whatever you call it, by experience. And because we don't have someone overseeing the archery program or the coaching, that's why we don't monitor development. And beforehand, we do things like shooting benchmarks. So we shoot a 36 arrow round and we score and we track our progress. Now that I'm unofficially in charge of training and coaching, I'm pushing for more rounds, which is basically what all clubs do, is we shoot rounds. Every week we have a round set, and we're trying to encourage people to shoot this round. The reason why we shoot rounds is because the rounds are standardized. So whether you shoot at this club or a different club, or you shoot at a ranking round or a national championship, the rounds are the same. So, we have a way to measure ourselves against basically the standard across the nation. We have our scores, we have our rating systems, we have our handicaps. So that's how we can track progress. And, for someone who is coaching or being the coach, we can look at data like scores and ratings to see how we go. But like we said, we don't actually look at someone developing. Now, me personally, again, sorry, I keep banging my table. It makes a noise, I know. For me personally, I look at form. I encourage people to do benchmarks by themselves and shoot competitions or rounds of us. So I kind of oversee and look at people's scores, but it's so individual and people kind of come in and out that it's mostly reliant on the individual, on the person, to decide whether they want to be monitored. That's actually the first dilemma. So that's one thing. The second part of the question there was, how do we encourage the senior experienced archers to help train up the younger inexperienced archers? And and Lord Daxon has a point there. Yeah, no, you can be as serious as you want. Absolutely, this is the most for any sport, and most clubs do not have a large core of competitive archers. But you're absolutely right, Lord Daxon. And your ABA too, which is interesting. I don't actually work much with ABA. I'm purely AA, but quite a few of our members shoot ABA for competitions. But anyway, get back to my point. So, how do you encourage that? Was that the question, by the way? Let's cut there. Yeah, how do you encourage more experienced archers to get involved in this area? This is tough. This is really tough. Archers are under no obligation, and this is a club organization thing, right? Members are under no obligation to volunteer. It helps if they do, and you have a core handful or one person that does everything, but you can't enforce an obligation for experienced shooters to help out. This is my personal dilemma because again, I'm the experienced archer, I'm the senior shooter, but you can't force me because I basically voluntarily train. We don't pay a coach, but I'm basically taking the role of personally mentoring every new recurve archer in the club. And because I shoot like recurve longbow and horsebow, if anyone else comes in with an exotic bow, that kind of falls on me. But you can't really do so, and this is the problem. You basically need a lot of the right people. Now, David mentioned a point here is free shooting. For our instructors, we waiver the shooting fees. And this is something which I pushed, and we all agree this makes sense because we pay shooting fees and club member fees, but because we are training people and not shooting, then we have a dilemma because I'm paying fees to not shoot. How does that make sense? I'm not being compensated. I'm not being paid because I'm a volunteer. So what do we do? And what we agreed on was to waive the shooting fees. That might be $80 for 3 months. So we shoot for free. It's not really an incentive. It's just more so of a thank you, a compensation, because we're already paying our fees. But the fact that we waiver like 3 months at a time or 6 months at a time, that makes a bit more sense for it. It's a bit easier for us to swallow, because it's still a lot of work for us. And now we're developing new archery instruction programs and run community programs. It's a lot of work, and unfortunately, it is purely volunteer. So one thing I would do is you really need to have a culture in place and the right people to value voluntary contributions. My platform, especially now that I'm no longer the president, I'm more like the voice for this, is that you have to protect your volunteers. You have to ensure that people who do volunteer, whether by doing groundworks or doing admin work or doing secretary work or doing coaching, these people are protected. That means they are not exposed to sources of anxiety and frustration and disappointment. That they feel valued. A good example is this, right? So for me, I like to shoot Saturdays. That's our normal club day. Everyone comes to shoot Saturday mornings, but that's when I do the instructing and coaching. So if I can't do it then everybody leaves at the end, I'm like, well, what about me, right? So if I feel like I am being left out because I'm coaching, then there's less incentive for me to come back and coach. And that applies to other people as well. So if other people feel like their time's being taken away, that they're not going to have the opportunity to come and use facilities, they'll go somewhere else. So that's the compromise you have to be careful of. And that is, oh yeah, by the way, Rocket Fist has a point there too. Yeah, it's usually like maybe like a handful of volunteers, which basically does everything. For me personally, it's about, again, having the right welcoming attitude where I want you to kind of help volunteer and help me out, work with me, and give people some skin in the game, right? So, for example, one of our new guys who might be watching, he's a bare bow shooter. He's been really working hard. It's kind of like, well, I like to have him help out with some of the beginners, like give him help of one person or two people, and get that person to feel like they can contribute. That's going to be the key. Make people feel they can do something. If you scare people by saying, oh, we need someone to be a coach, people are like, well, I don't know anything. I don't know how to do archery. What is bow? What is arrow? And they just walk off and shoot a compound bow for the next 2 hours and not help out. But you need to really make people feel like they can do small things first. So help out for one day. Help me with this person. And then, this isn't a trap, by the way, to make them volunteer, but to encourage them to say, you can do it. And if you do it and you feel good about it, then you're more likely to do it. Because, I do it, I feel good about it. And when I help people out, I feel good about it too. So it's kind of like you need to build the right culture with the right people. So that's kind of my answer to your question here for both. The first one is we don't really develop our archers as much as we could, but that doesn't mean we should either. It's a lot of personal choice. People want to be serious. can be serious, but people who don't want to be pushed around and forced to do certain things, I believe I shouldn't force someone. If someone wants to shoot a bear but for fun, then that's their prerogative. If they want to shoot competitions, then we should support that. That might not be the prerogative or the majority here, but for the helping out of new shooters, beginners from experienced archers, you can't force an archer to share their experience, and this isn't a good thing either, because again, a lot of people don't have the skill set or the personality to be a good mentor or to be a good instructor. So you kind of need to train up the core, and this is what Rocketfist mentioned before. Have that core, but try to continually work on the positives of helping out and volunteering. You can't tell someone to volunteer. You can encourage them. You're never going to get that high retention rate of volunteers, but what you do have, you protect. The people who do help out, whether voluntarily or by being volunteered, they should feel like they're being valued. That's my general answer to them. Quick questions: how adjust plunger? I'm not going to do this in detail because people don't need to worry about this. The plunger is one of the most overstated things. You get it right. You get your gross things first. Get your limbs, get your draw weight, get your right arrow. The plunger doesn't need that much adjusting. Now, once you get to a high level where your tuning is, you just need to fine tune it. Then you can play around with it. But just if the spring works and it's set the right distance, it's okay. Stop worrying about it. I want to play more War Thunder. I'm moving away from it. Basically, once I review all the remaining tanks, I'm done. And I'll just come back and do the occasional tank review when the updates come in. But War Thunder is basically gone for me. The game is not fun anymore. I've basically played it to exhaustion. And the fact that there's no servers around here, I can't play half the tanks anyway. So it's basically done. Hello, Ryan from Saipan. Wow, you're right about there. That's amazing. There's that's a pretty small island in there. I live in Australia, so without this huge continent, it was this tiny island. That's interesting. Hello. All right, so back to my Facebook question. That was one question, by the way. This take a while, but we'll see how we go. Next one over here. Yes, Barry Taylor. After being a member of my local club for 2 months, I've been enjoying the indoor shooting. And at the end of this month, our outdoor season begins. What are your tips for first time shooting outdoors? A couple of things here. So one thing is, outdoor shooting is probably like the better way. And the funny thing is here, indoors not that common here. Most clubs are outdoor clubs first, which makes sense. Archery ranges tend to be indoor, but archery clubs tend to be outdoor. So what I recommend is, well, of course, enjoy it. It's a bit more natural, but you're also exposed to a lot of conditions beyond your control. And wind is one of them, rain, sun, all these things in... I saw Zach's question there. Robin Hood Men in Tights. Do I really need to? I might do as a fun pop shot one day, but the funny thing is some of the comedy in like the funny films, the comedy films, they do have some element of truth to them, but maybe a different time. Any tips for outdoor shooting? Just enjoy it, really. You'll be shooting longer distances, which is good. You can push yourself. I've no tips. Just enjoy yourself. But just realize that it's actually a lot more fun in some ways. If you shoot indoor, you're very likely going to be shooting at small targets, 4-centimeter faces, so it tends to be very intense and competitive. Longer distances are more punishing. If you shoot outdoor, you're shooting 30 meters, 40, 50, 60 to 70 meters. Distance is the true indicator of your skill level. Indoor is precision shooting. You can be a mediocre archer, but still hit the target quite well at indoor distances. And outdoor, if you shoot in a mediocre way, you will miss the target. And that's kind of like your the way for you to see that, oh, I need to improve my technique, I need to hone my skills better. So arguably, outdoor shooting is a better reflection of an archer's skill. So just keep that in mind. If you find yourself not shooting as well or just missing the target, that's a fairly normal part of doing outdoor shooting, especially longer distances. But enjoy yourself. Why do you get slap? Because you're not holding the bow correctly usually. Elbow rotation is not correct. So a lot of people shoot like this with the elbow turned inwards. That means the string goes right through here. Other reasons, it might be a bad release, it might be a bad grip. Check out my video on string slap. I've already answered that question. Hi everybody. Am I competing in the 2020 Olympics? Probably not. The Olympic qualification process basically starts this year and next year, especially next year. I'm nowhere near condition. I'm just starting to get back into form, which means I'm average. Not going to be Olympian. So that's not the plan. I joke about it, but I'm not going to be an Olympian. Not at this rate. I've got your question in a moment, Ryan. I'll get back to that because either you asked me already or someone else asked the same question. I'll get back to it in just a moment. Some quick comments there. Sebastian, you left your club because members are mostly teenagers, and I'm 43. That's a bit weird there. But yeah, it's something which it's easy to encourage teenagers, but again, teenagers can be very flaky. They've got priorities, they've got school, they've got life. But yeah, we're trying to get more young people to do so. But that said, I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on young people because it's the seniors, the adults who are the lifeblood of the club. The juniors matter, but they're not running the club. The adults are. So we're saying we should support teenagers. Yes, we should. They're the future. But we need to also work the present, and that is if our present adult members aren't being supported, they're not going to stick around for the teenagers. Where was I? I think Rick had a point there. I'll get to your question a bit later. Just ask me the question later, Rick, because I'm going to go through my pre-prepared questions first. Okay. Just if it's not there, just ask me again. Back to my other questions. I've got like 20 lined up. Just want to take a bit of time doing this. Rich, does moving the plunger button in and out actually affect dynamic spine? To an extent, yes. It's dynamic spine is more about draw length and draw weight, plus the spine of the arrow, and the tension of the spring can make a difference to your tune. So yes, I'm not sure if we exactly call it dynamic spine, but it definitely does affect the way you shoot. Matthias, what types of injury are common in archery? Most common shoulder. Oh my goodness, shoulder injuries are so scary. Like anyone who's gone through a shoulder injury and is doing archery now, or has suffered an archery injury, rotator cuff. That is the biggest problem. I can't overstate this. For those who are watching, if you've seen my commentary on Survival Lily's video, which is currently a very popular video because it's Survival Lily, the reason why I did so is because a lot of people copy the high draw technique, not from her necessarily, but just the technique of the high draw. That problem is that if you do it wrong, you will tear your rotator cuff. That's why I wasn't angry at it. Actually, it was a very constructive criticism because she explained it fairly well, and I wanted to back it up with a more experienced archery-centric explanation of why it works, as well as why it doesn't work. Because if you don't load the weight correctly onto your back muscles, you will damage both of these rotator cuffs. A lot of people do their bow arm, their drawing arm, because they hold the weight through their arm and they don't transfer it into their shoulder here. They don't go through the final loading step, so there's no back tension. So you're basically holding out in a compressed way. The weight's on this shoulder and on this shoulder, and that is a very bad place for a heavy bow. Those who shoot 40, 50, 60 pound bows, even especially compounds, where you're really pulling it back, that's so much tension here that can be very vulnerable to injury. And if you don't align your shoulder correctly by dropping the front shoulder, then this keeps on creeping up and this becomes very vulnerable. I've had this happen to me, not an injury, but a lot of strain. If I kept on doing it, then that would likely be an injury. All the time. Fatigue does it to you, incorrect technique, just not paying attention to your form. A lot of people do this. We fix it as soon as possible, but it's one of the most common recurring form faults. It's the front shoulder. When you pull back, it comes up because you're leaning back into the shot to get the weight right, but as you lean back, your bones go out of alignment, and therefore your muscles become strained. So these two, I think, are the most common injuries. Hey, Kevin Plus. Yeah. Too bad. Too bad. Nice of you to join us. I still want to check out more of your videos when you can, so keep on making them. And hi Kitty, it's been a while. Yeah, club's doing really well now. We're shooting 3 or 4 times a week. We're getting more shoots. We're stabilizing, and our new leadership is working quite well. Abdul Haq, what's the best way to get children between 8 to 12 years old interested by archery training? Because you'll be opening your first archery club for children in your town. Bloody fantastic. Well done for opening an archery club, especially for young children. How do you get people, how do you get children interested? Children are, I think most children are already curious, especially that age group, that want to try new things. You don't really have to make them interested. You just make it fun. So give them an easy challenge. Don't make them shoot like 15, 20 meters. A lot of fun parks make you shoot some stupid distance like 20 meters because you miss. It's, you know, half the fun is fetching arrows, yes, but like, you need to make them feel like they accomplished something. So give them a very close distance, 10 meters. Give them a very big target. And make it feel like that every shot they do is something they did really well. Like they've earned it, okay? And most of the time, especially with kids, you're going to make... They're going to shoot everywhere. But the kid who works hard and listens to you and actually hit like the bullseye, which is like that big in front of them, they feel really accomplished. And you should encourage that. You should also give them, again, very light bows. 8-year-olds to 12-year-olds are actually a lot not as strong as you think they are. Okay, you might have a big kid every now and then, but most kids need something very easy. You also need to make them feel like they're not, like they shouldn't be ashamed of not hitting the middle. So if they miss target completely, it's okay. It's part of the learning phase. But you know, give them short activities. Give them a chance to learn something new. Give them a challenge like scoring or competition, and make it a friendly competition. Vary it up. Do things like team competition or shooting in pairs. So try to incorporate a variety of like different activities rather than just shooting. Doing just target shooting can be fun. Not fun, but it's what people do normally for archery. But if you're going to make it for kids, then you need to again vary it up there, especially again for the really young kids. Give them a chance to enjoy archery and give them a sense of accomplishment as well. Do I know any Israeli archers? No, I don't, not personally. I haven't really heard of any. DIY ideas for target boards. You mean the target itself? Old clothing packed together, carpet, even plastic wrap, but you need to compress it a lot. How to make a click more easily? I don't know what you're asking there. If you're struggling to get through the clicker, Haslina, then you need to adjust the length correctly or cut your arrow so that when you're at full draw, you only need to do a slight squeeze to get it through. If you're really struggling to get through the clicker, then your length is wrong. So have someone help you out and adjust the clicker to your length. You can't make a click any easier if your length is wrong. Oh yeah, kids' bows have to look cool, make them colorful, make them flashy, give them cool names like Thunderbolts or, I don't know, actually, speaking of names, like our club bow names, like the ones that we made the strings for, that are live stream that we named, that's working. Everybody has a favorite bow now. Zach, yeah, the shoot through the center shot bows, right? I actually rarely see them. The ones I normally see are like the arrow rest on both sides, so the camera shot both hands. I haven't really seen a shoot through person, so I have no real opinion on them. Okay, next question. Sorry guys, just going through. I've done like 4 so far. It's been like half an hour. Wow. Okay, Valentine. My question is, how do you know when the poundage you shoot is too much? Big part is when you feel it's way too much. A good example of this, let's grab my, let's got so many bows lying around. Somebody, how many bows do I have? I've got 10 now. I've been approached by like Ginseng. I've got another company, Nika, it's a Chinese company. They want to send me bows, so I'm getting more and more. So look at my Samick Sage. I'm not sure why I'm holding this now, to be honest. But here we go, product placement. But yeah, Like, how do you know when it's too strong? Too heavy for you? We have the normal test where you hold it for like 30 seconds, and if you shake, then it's too heavy for you. But even if you pass that test, fatigue will set in. How do you know it's too heavy? When you're at full draw, right? When you're at full draw and you feel like you can't control the shot, then that's too heavy for you. It's something which a lot of people have an ego about, where they feel like, I've got a 20 pound, but I can handle it. But I still see adults who pretty much have no upper body strength insist on buying a 30 pound bow because they don't want to buy too many limbs or too many bows. And they can barely handle a 20 pound with correct alignment and back tension. This isn't to say they're weak, but a lot of people overthink, they overstate their maximum draw weight. So the big part for me is, do you have full control of the shot from start to finish? And you have to be honest, because if a coach sees you and you say, I can do this, and you're doing this, if you're going like, I can do 35 pound or 45 pound, and you're like, ugh, and you're shaking and you just can't hold it, and your release is all floppy, you can't, it's too heavy for you. And the more you insist on trying to make it work, the worse you will get. Injury, for one, but you will never learn correct technique. So, how do you know when you're overbowed? When you honestly, you tell yourself that you can't shoot 50 arrows from this bow in an hour and shoot the same weight in your last shot as your first shot. If you're shooting a 6 arrow end and your 6th arrow is crap compared to your first arrow, you might be overbowed. You see the Olympic archers, they're shooting 40, 50 pound bows. They've got perfect control. You see them, it looks like they're shooting like 10 pound bows. It looks so easy. This is why when you watch people do training on YouTube or form videos or my videos, we shoot so easily because we have the strength to do it well. If like I could pull like a 15 pound bow really easily, it's almost effortless. And those who shoot like 40, 50 pound bows make it look like they're shooting 20 pound bows because they have the strength to do it correctly. They have the control. So you need control. That's the main thing. So the main criteria is control. Okay, that's my answer. All right, some quick questions over here. Yes, Sebastian, I agree. We don't put enough emphasis on warming up techniques. You need some dynamic warm ups. You can't just start with, especially a heavy bow. You can't start from scratch and just shoot right away. Yeah, I'll get to your question a bit later, Ryan. Suggestions for people living in places no dedicated archery support. You got to be self-taught, unfortunately. So you need to make use of the right resources you can, both written as well as video. Watch NUSensei. Apparently, he's a really good archer. But yeah, like buy the material. So buy books, things like if you're shooting Olympic archery, look at the FITA coaching manual, level 2, very detailed. People say you can't learn from books. Of course you can learn from books. You know, like I'm reading Gao Ying at the moment. The one that's translated by Justin Ma and GTN, and that's been so good because there's visual illustrations, but also descriptions which go, oh, I understand that. So you need to study archery. You also need to look at as many sources as you can. So if you don't have any support around you, then you have to use what sources are available, either in person, in print, or online. So yeah, as much as you can, look up reliable sources to help and guide you. If you have the ability to talk to somebody or get someone to watch you, even better. And of course today we have the ability to record ourselves and watch ourselves. So you can teach yourself, but you need some guidance, that's all. So it's actually not that hard to get into archery, to improve. You just need some guidance. And I think the main thing is a lot of us, not you, Ryan, but a lot of us think that you know, we are doing the right thing when we're actually not. So a lot of archers develop a style which works, and I'll come to that in a different video, but they don't actually have an effective style. It works for like their 5 meters or 10 meters, but they don't group well, or they don't group beyond 5 meters or 10 meters. Survival Lily, again, send back to us just for a moment. Most of the testing videos are like 10 meters. When she shot 15 meters, she had a very hard time. So it's kind of, for me, someone who's self-taught will say they shoot well, or someone will recognize that they shoot well, but when it comes to a realistic context, whether it's competition or field or hunting, it doesn't mean that they actually can. So again, we need to kind of be a bit more humble in the way we think about our progress. So try to, in some way, validate what you do, either objectively through a score or by watching other people and trying to understand why they do things they do. That's my advice for you, right? My opinion on Mandarin duck bows, most of them are okay actually. You can't beat their price. Apparently the Mandarin duck Phantom dropped under like $67 or something. It's very cheap. If you just want a bow, then Mandarin duck are fine. I've got like 4 of them at the moment. I've got the Phantom, the traditional Chinese bow, which I don't sell at the moment because of shipping. I have the Windrunner, and I have the Black Hunter. Spoiler alert, I have a Black Hunter. I haven't had time to shoot it yet. I do have the Black Hunter, but they're really nice bows. When is the right time to change your poundage? When you feel you need to. If it's mostly driven by purpose. If you're shooting long distance, you will probably feel the need to increase your draw weight. If you're not shooting long distance, you might not necessarily need to. Take it easy. But it's mostly, do you feel like you have 100% control of your bow weight as of current? And do you need to go up? If the answer is yes to both, that's when you know. That's my quick answer for you. I haven't tried Galaxy limbs yet, but apparently they're rebranded Junsing limbs, but they work fine. But yeah, I've reviewed a lot of the Mandarin duck bows, so just check out my reviews. I've got positive opinions in general. I don't always have positive opinions of the cheap bows. Toe point, good point there. They worked okay, but the kit was crap. But the Mandarin duck bows work fine. But I haven't tried the Black Hunter yet. That's still in my box somewhere. Yeah, Mark, overbowing in ABA. Some insist that they need an 80-pound compound to shoot ABA target matches. Yeah, it's very, people get so focused on the draw weights. By the way, hi to people. I'm seeing a lot of people in chat now. Hi, it's been a while. Alright, do Olympic archers adjust their left or right for different distances, or up and down? Left, right should be constant. The only reason you would be adjusting left or right is for windage. If the wind is constant in one direction, then archers will adjust windage. If the wind is gusty, they'll aim off or aim between gusts. But if it's a constant wind they can predict, then they'll adjust left and right. If you have to adjust left or right because of distance, then your bow's out of tune. Your spine is wrong, you need to fix that too. Fix that spine rating, the dynamic spine. So again, if you're shooting at one distance at 50 meters and that's one sight setting, and at 30 meters is a different one, then yeah, I was doing this. Okay, you're not actually shooting that well. So tune is a problem. Windage is the only reason you should be adjusting left and right. Is the Realis brand good? Of course, it's a win-win. So, they are like the best brand alongside Hoyt. And most of the top end ones, MK Archery, Hoyt, win-and-win. Realis is win-and-win. Win-and-win's brand. If you name your CXT, I actually don't name my bows. But my bows are tools, so I don't name them. I don't have that personal attachment. So if I named it, what would it be? I actually I don't know. I haven't thought about it yet. Normally names are earned, not given. Okay, so that's my opinion. And yes, you're waiting for your Samick Sage from Guam. Well, there you go. You bought a Samick Sage. I haven't shot it for a long time, but I still have it. Very nice bow. Like I don't see a negative. It's actually a very nice bow, so you will enjoy your Samick Sage. Good luck with that. Cool. Yep. Aluminium, carbon, and fiberglass for hunting. No, I wouldn't do fiberglass for hunting. Carbon. I'd say carbon is fine for hunting. Aluminium is good too, but carbon's okay. Fiberglass is a bit cheap for hunting, honestly. It's too fragile. Breaks very easily. Back to... let's go for... back to another question here. I haven't touched my YouTube questions yet. Got a lot of stuff to do here. Let's do some really quick ones. Miroslav, do you know what is inside bow stabilizers? It's mostly air, actually. Most of them are hollow. Some are solid, but most of them are hollow. Why do a fair percentage of professional... This is Rich, your question, by the way. Rich Hardy, I know you're watching right now. Why do a lot of professional shooters shoot outdoor arrows in indoor tournaments? For those that don't know, when you shoot indoor at 18 meters, a lot of archers use really thick carbon arrows, the fat ones, because it's more likely that these thick arrows will cut the line and therefore get the highest score. Considering that the target's quite small, the 10 rings like 4 centimeters across, so you want as much chance as possible to get the line cutter. So why do some archers, or many archers, use the thin outdoor arrows? My answer is likely their bow is perfectly tuned for outdoor shooting, so they don't need to change arrows. Because if they're shooting a thicker arrow, they need a different tune to their current outdoor arrows, because obviously different spine rating, different flight characteristics. So if they might actually have a separate indoor bow. Like the entire bow is set up for indoor shooting, and it's set for that particular arrow. But most people don't have that luxury of having multiple bows. Like you have like 2 bows for outdoor, your main one and your backup one, and you just swap it around, and then you have like 2 bows for indoor. It's a bit way too much. I'm talking about like tens of thousands of dollars. If you're sponsored, okay, but even then, that's a lot, right? So, yes, Rich. The answer to your question is it's mostly because they don't want to mess around with the outdoor tune. The commentators will usually mention that this is the outdoor set using thin arrows. So the thin arrows are a little unusual, but if your bow is perfectly set up for that particular arrow, like your tune is spot on, why change? And that means that you can still hit those tens. People who shoot in outdoor arrows will still hit very accurately. And that's fine. Like you might lose out on the line cutter percentage, but you make up for it for the fact that your tune and your skill level is high enough where you can hit those golds all the time. There we go. So that was my answer to your question, Rich. Okay, next one. Steve, tennis elbow and archery. Any advice on how to ease it? Check a doctor. Don't ask random people on the internet to help you, because I'm going to say check your doctor. Ask your physician or sports physician or therapist. Like, get their advice, not my advice. If there's any injury, get a professional. A lot of people will avoid this because they don't want to see a doctor, especially men. If it's not bleeding, then it's okay, right? Now, like if it's actually a problem with your body that is affecting your sporting or your physical performance, sorry, that's apple juice, then get some expert advice, all right? It may cost you, yes, but I can't tell you how to fix your elbow, right? I'm not qualified to do that. And even if I did, I'm going to say, ask your doctor. Rich just mentioned before. Like a lot of people use things like X-Busters, like indoor competitions. Depends on like the background of the person. Like some people are purely indoor, so they use indoor arrows. Some people who are primarily outdoor will use the outdoor kit inside. You can't use your indoor arrows outside because it's too thick. The arrows are blown off by the wind. But people who shoot outdoor will find the arrows work just as fine inside. That might be the reason why as well. Next question comes from Andrew MT, who I believe is my Year 7 student. Here we go. What speed do arrows generally travel at? That's an unanswerable question. There is no speed that most arrows fly at. That is purely that is based on your draw weight. That is based on the arrow material, mostly. So it's I can't say how much or there's no measurement. Like what you use at school camp, which might be 15 pound, is going to be much slower than a 60 pound compound. So that is an unanswerable question. Next one, Christine. The latest and best pressure buttons. Am I going to review? No, I don't review pressure buttons. They're expensive, and I have to like change my entire tune to make it work. So I don't want to do that. So I don't do reviews of plungers. What can I do? Either just can plunge. I can't review plungers. It's like saying stabilizers. I can't review stabilizers. I mean, unless you use like a lot in your life, you can't really tell the difference. So I can't really say this stabilizer or this plunger is better. The current good ones, Biter, by far one of the most popular plunger, and the AAE plungers are excellent as well. Shibuya make good ones too. So they're all good plungers. I can't really review them per se. Now, David. Do I ever shoot from various yardages? Because we shoot fixed targets, fixed distances. In outdoor target archery, the distances are always fixed. Variable distances are mostly used in field archery or 3D archery. So if it's an unmarked event like field or 3D, then that's when you need to practice your range estimation. Outdoor target is not variable distance. It is set distance. So it's I guess a more controlled environment. So you have an equalizer. So it now comes down to the person's ability to shoot accurately at that distance, not whether or not the distance is correctly estimated. Of course, the unmarked events like 3D and field will also test that skill as well, but that's not the prime skill being tested. That's why it's mostly set distances. Well, okay, so I get my nose blocked there. Iron Pirate. Therefore, is it fair to say that Olympic style and archers instinctively point their arm at the target to aim left or right? Does the sight only work if the bow is correctly aligned? Yes, actually, yeah, the sight only works when you align, because you need a string picture. It's not just like a circle that you look through. It has to be the string as well. So you can only get the correct string alignment when your head and is in the right position, and inherently your body and your shoulders and all that. So it is possible to get a string picture if you get the wrong alignment, but most archers will obviously get the right alignment and shoot correctly. It's instinctive. It does become instinctive, yes. But yeah, it's basically the sight doesn't really change your technique. I mean, people who shoot gap or people who shoot with a point of aim system will do a similar thing. They just draw it back. The draw step is there. They get the anchor point. They align the target and they release. And with the Olympic archer, they use a sight to align. With a barebow shooter, they use the arrow to align or something else. So the technique isn't that much different. And trust me, I'll shoot all forms now. It's not that much different between each form. John Tam. I see a bunch of people list string material. Does it make a difference? Yes, it does. The biggest difference is Dacron compared to fast flight or modern materials, because Dacron is stretchier. Watch my string making video. Some string materials are stretchier and therefore slower. At the same time, some bows work better with a stretchier, slower string. A lot of traditional bows, which are all wood, can't handle the faster materials because it cracks the limb tips. So, yes, it does make a difference. Beyond that, there's not that much difference. It's kind of personal preference or what you can easily get. But string material does make a difference. Let's see. David Conant. So, I've compared trad barebow against Olympic freestyle. How do you think a freestyle compound would match up against a freestyle compound? Don't smash them. That's not a competition. You've seen freestyle compound, right? Like they shoot X's all day. Like a winner of a compound event is not how much score they get, but how many X's they don't get. So that's not a competition. Like that is. Okay, I'm not sure. I thought the question was how would a barebow compound fare against freestyle recurve? That's a bit more an equal match because you have a very good bow, but without any aiming assistance, then that's really tough to shoot well. But if you're doing freestyle compound versus freestyle recurve, it's basically a rifle versus a bow. That's how different it is. That is not even a competition there, guys. Yeah, like compound is absolute perfection. I mean, like people who, the only way in which a freestyle compound can go up against a freestyle recurve is if the compound shooter is inexperienced. I've beaten compound shooters. That doesn't mean that I'm a good shooter. It means that they're worse than me. So you still need that level of competency with your bow. If you don't have control of the weight, if you don't have that stability or that experience or that muscle memory, then a freestyle shooter will beat you. In the same way that a barebow shooter will beat a bad freestyle shooter. Okay, so a bad compound will lose against a decent recurve. But that should never be the case. On any good day, assuming average skill, a compound should beat freestyle recurve. Recurve should beat a barebow. And the only way it works the other way around is if the shooter is actually really bad. So that it's not a competition. Again, if you look at the records in this case, I'm not going to show you right now. I can't find them right now. But the compound records are basically how many X's are scored. And for the long distance ones, it might be just like 10 or 12 points off from the maximum score. Recurve is around, for the top archers, maybe 50 points off the maximum score. On average, if the maximum score is say 720 at 70 meters, then the world record, the average archer, like for example, the qualifying score for now for the Olympics, I think for the men's it's like 620 or something, or 630 out of 720. So it's not an unreasonable score, but that's what they expected to get. The average Olympic archer needs to get that score to qualify. A compound shooter will probably get a 680 plus, or 690, or 700 out of 720 at 70 meters. Now they shoot 50 meters instead, but if you shoot the same round, same distance, same target, they might lose 20 points at most. It's not a competition at all. Very, very unfair. All right, I'll answer the question chat later. And that's all my Facebook questions. Okay, I'll take a bit of a break. You can spam your questions for a moment. Sorry, I missed a few of those things. I've got the YouTube questions lined up. There's some good ones. But go to some of the live chat now. Well, let's put some of these questions here. I want to read some of this. I'm not sure about my X10s. I don't shoot enough competitively to say what happens to my arrows. How to win an archery comp? Shoot better than everybody else. What I recommend? I can't recommend bows, guys. If people ask me like what bow you recommend, every bow can be good. Depends on what you like. Depends on what you can afford. So like your age, your height, doesn't matter. Buy a bow you like. Only things that, you know, buy the right draw weight. If you don't buy one too heavy for you, and if you're a tall person, you can buy a long bow. But apart from that, every bow is fine. Every good bow is good. You can buy a bow of Alibaba or eBay, and you'll be fine as long as it's not a cheap knockoff brand. But you can buy any bow. I can't recommend a bow. It's people always ask like what bow would you recommend. It's like what car would you recommend? Any car, right? So. No recommendation. An Iron Pirates comment there. So how similar the action of bringing the arrow towards the target to instinctive shooting? It's the same process. Sorry about that. The action is the same. It's like aiming the bow is instinctive. If you shoot with a sight, if you shoot with no sight, the aiming and drawing a line are different steps. So the draw's the same thing. So what you use to look at you all look at the target, but what you use as a reference point is different. It's the same process. It's the same process. People keep saying that Olympic shooters have no skill and the bow does things for them. No, the Olympic bow or using a sight and shooting a bare bow are like 99% the same process. The only difference is maybe a clicker and another clicker. The sight doesn't even make a difference in your process. The way you shoot with a sight is the same you shoot without a sight. It's the same. I'm telling you. One day I do a video where I point out that all archery is the same. There might be variations on how you do it. Thumb or 3 fingers. Sight or no sight. But practically 95% of all archery technique is the same. No matter what style you compare. Korean, Mongolian, Turkish, Mediterranean, compound, whatever. Archery is the same. Yes, I've answered your question, Matthias, already. And I closed the thing, but your question... What was your question, Matthias? I've already answered it, by the way. I answered it first. I'll go to it very quickly. Just to repeat. Your question, which I completely forgot, was... yes. I'll go back around 15 minutes to the archery injury one, right? It's mostly shoulders. It's mostly the rotator cuff, which is the most vulnerable, and that's mostly due to draw weight and incorrect technique. That's my 2-second summary. But I had a very big discussion for your question, so do check it out. Okay, where was I? All right, so that's Facebook done. Back to the YouTube questions. So, there's a big bunch from Fernando, which I've already answered. I'm not going to do those. But some big questions here. ZRB, do I like guns? No, I don't like guns. I admire guns as technology, as an advancement and extension of human history. I like learning about the mechanical parts of guns and how they function, but I'm not a gun nut. Like, I know what guns are. I can discuss, M16s or AR-15 rifles and AK-47s. I play games, I watch movies, but I'm not really a gun nut. And a lot of people will say like, "Oh, do you like the Colt 45, the M1911, or the Barrett 90, whatever?" Like, I don't. I like looking at guns, but I'm not a gun fan. Remember, I grew up in a non-gun culture. We are a non-firearm country. We don't own guns, and I have no interest in using a gun. And this is something which a lot of people don't quite understand. Is that, well, especially if you're an American, right? Gun culture is so large that you expect every person as a rite of passage to want to use guns. It's a man thing or a boy thing or American thing or all the above. But elsewhere in the world, gun culture is not that strong, and especially in Australia, very few people have an interest in guns. It's mostly the older generation, mostly rural, those in farms who can own like rifles or those who do hunt. But the majority of people have absolutely no interest in guns. I'm slightly above that. I have some interest in guns. Do I like guns? No, I don't like guns. They're there, and I will admire what I can. I will admire guns, but I don't really like guns in the same way that people say you should have a gun, you should try this. I don't care about that. By the way, Chris had a revelation. He asked me, what's the story of me being Japanese in Australia? Well, unfortunately, as he's already figured out, I'm not Japanese in Australia. Wakubani Honjin Jinai desu. So I'm not Japanese. I had I'll go to a question above a bit later. Can you do a video hitting moving targets? No, I can't do moving target video. I have no moving targets, so I can't showcase that. Where could you find good hunting bows? On any archery store that specializes in traditional or hunting. That's my short answer. Am I going to do more Let's Plays? I don't plan to. Let's Plays take a lot of time to do. You play the game, you have to commentate, and then you have to edit the video. And I just don't want to anymore. It's not my main draw card. And that's a lot of labor, a lot of effort to a very small portion of my audience. I don't really want to. Honestly, when I started YouTube, I did a few, but the number one rule of YouTube is you only do things you enjoy. And when you don't enjoy it, it's very easy to tell, and you're sunk. I don't enjoy commentating while playing games. I might do like live streams of short games. Like I want to finish Learn Japanese to Survive, for example. And I want to do it as a live stream because there's no point doing it as actually spending hours editing the video, because there's no point doing so. Because even if I just don't do any editing, it's just like the recording and then the rendering takes like an hour or two in the high definition. There's no point in doing so. So I might just live stream like short games, but time is a factor. I'm a high school teacher. I don't have time to do this stuff, and I don't find it very fun, so that's why I don't do it. Which part of the bow should you upgrade first? Probably arrows. You might change limbs, but the risers probably the part you want to get the best in. But otherwise, upgrade. If you're gonna upgrade, it'll be the riser. But if you're gonna change something, it'll probably be the limbs. Probably heavier limbs. David McMahon. When I bought my compound bow, I had a little white strap in the middle of the string where you put the arrow. I'm not sure which part you're talking about. It might be the peep sight line, I think. I've answered Ryan's question there. So you're on a little island and you have no help. Yeah, yeah. Basically, get as many sources as you can, books and videos. And the big question from this list, which I want to focus on for most of this, is yes, I've seen Jörg. I've seen his YouTube union. I think his demands are very accurate. YouTube is a mess at the moment. Channels being banned by bots, utterly ridiculous. Demonetization, it's madness. This is madness. And I understand a bit more from the corporation side why YouTube does this. They have to appease their investors and the advertisers. But the way they're implementing it is literally killing YouTubers and creators. So yeah, check him out. I was going to showcase the video. I had it closed now, but check out the YouTube Union video from Jörg, because he's one of the best spokespeople. He was affected very heavily, very popular as well. Ugh, that's a mess there. Now, the main question. Oh, by the way, yes, Catherine's a point there. When I see a rifle shooter do archery, you can tell they're a rifle shooter. You can tell the way they stand, the way they align their shoulders is the same as in archery. So you can normally tell. Now, the question I have lined up is from Mongoose, and that is, I want to know why YouTubers lately create content to criticize other YouTubers. Now, this is a good question because I can't answer for other YouTubers. I will answer for me. I don't like criticizing other people. It's not my role to judge other people and what they do. But this is my position because I do have critique or criticism videos. Obviously, Lars Anderson. More recently, Shadowversity. And I have touched on people like PC Genie and, of course, most recently, Survival Lily. Some of these are criticisms, others are kind of like commentaries or learning experiences. But what's my line here? Now, I will say this. I genuinely, authentically, and honestly don't care what you do. If you want to do archery in your own time and space, that's your business. If you want to do videos of you shooting, I don't care. I'm not going to watch a video and then make a shout out saying, oh, you're doing it wrong. I don't care about that. You do what you want to do. I have a line. Okay? I don't interfere with what other people do or commentate on what other people do. Because I've got better things to do than that. The line is when you start teaching people. That's where I draw the line. Because now you come into my territory. And I'm saying I'm the only archery instructor, the only archery expert on YouTube. But the point I make is that when you start teaching people, you take on an extra responsibility. And that is, you have to provide accurate information to your audience. And when you are a person who is providing inaccurate information, then you are doing a disservice to your audience. Not the archery community, because your community might not be the archery community, but you are doing a disservice to your community. I'll give you an example, right? You guys watch me, all right? I'm the biggest archery YouTuber right now, right? What if I teach something wrong? What if I teach a technique which is more likely to get you injured? I would expect you to call me out. I would expect everyone to call me out because I don't want people to be loyal, mindless zombie sheep pool. Right? I want people to say, "Look, no, you're wrong. This is not how you do it," because I've got an outreach of nearly 100,000 people plus. Look, a good example. My Olympic swing video is around 2 million views right now, right? And most of these viewers have never seen archery before, right? So, if I said something wrong in that video, then millions of people have the potential to be misled by what I said, and they wouldn't know better. And because I said it in an authoritative way, using some logic and some experience, people can be deceived. Now, take that and multiply it by 200, and you have Lars Anderson. And this is the problem. The majority, like I'd say 90% of the viewers of Lars Anderson's videos are not archers. So when he says something like, modern archery uses one eye, then you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are misled by a statement which might not be intended that way. It might be an honest mistake, or it might be a misinterpretation, a misunderstanding. But now you have a million people who think that this is the way it's done. This is why I spoke up against Shadowversity's video, because he made a lot of generalizations. And when you see his audience, they're like, oh my god, thank you, it's so interesting, I didn't know that. Nobody questions these things. People don't have to criticize others, but every single person needs to be critical. Everything that is shown to you, that is taught to you, whether it's from another YouTuber, whether it's from me, whether it's from your teachers, should be questioned, because they need to be validated. You can call it a peer review, but I don't think YouTube needs to work that way. It shouldn't work that way. But the thing is that it works two ways. The first thing to consider is that the person who is providing the information, who is educating the users, is that you need to be responsible, because your viewers know less than you most of the time. Okay, they assume that what you say is correct. So when you do something wrong and you stand by it, you teach people wrong information. So at the same time, if somebody who is an authority on the subject decides to criticize you, or if your viewer criticizes you, you need to be able to defend what you said. So it doesn't have to be a personal attack. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this guy's trying to call me out. What a noob. I'm gonna make him look bad and get my audience to like make him look bad. No, like it's a challenge, not in like I'll take you one-on-one sort of thing. It's an intellectual challenge. It's like, if you said something which I find contentious, if I teach an alternate technique and people challenge me, I should be able to at least justify why this technique is legitimate, right? That is the true test of an educator, that what they teach isn't just some bollocks they made up just to get views, but actually is based on some kind of truth which actually makes sense. And this is what a lot of people don't do it right. Lemon Genesis Kid is a good example of that, right? So he didn't know what he was doing, so he tries to teach people, and he doesn't know a single thing. Now, on a more realistic note, Survival Lily. Lily, fantastic survival channel, huge popular channel. And she responded to my video, so she thought it was a good thing, which I did a professional, critique and commentary on technique, which is a good thing. That's the whole point of it. But here's the thing, right? So if you look at Survival Lily's video, I might just flash it for a bit here. Just want to grab this very quickly, because again, this isn't criticism. This is an interesting observation of the way things are. Let's go to, what was it? Lily. That's my video. I want to show you the comments. Actually, maybe not, because there's nothing really exciting about this one. But I just want to showcase why like people like me might feel a slight urge to do commentaries in other people's videos. Alright, let's just flip over here. Flipping, bing. Okay, so let's go through some of these these comments. These are the top ones, about recent ones. Let's see. What works for you? Okay, well, a couple of things. So if you haven't seen the video, so one thing which I make a point about is that people compare her technique to Japanese archery, and then people say that I tried this technique and it worked for me, that sort of thing. That's something really new, and a lot of these comments are either it worked for me or thank you for showing us. Okay, so a lot of people are trying to, and there's nothing wrong with sharing this works for me, but when you have an outreach of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, many of them will not question what you do, and when they try it, they might find it doesn't work for them. I made a point about Lily's video because I've seen the Hydra destroy people. I've seen people ruin their muscles. Their shoulders are shot. That's the point about the question Matthias asked before. People destroy their shoulders by doing a high draw. So when I see someone like Lily do the high draw, well, if they do it for a reason, then that makes sense. I'm not going to judge someone if they have a good point then. But if they're doing this and they don't explain the risk behind that, and people are just copying you, then that's going to be harmful, like actually harmful to your viewer. And that's where I took a bit of a stand, not to like again criticize Lily, but to learn from the experience, to add to it. So again, people, I'm aware that people, thousands, watch my practice videos, not just because they want to watch me shoot, but to imitate my form. Now, I'm not the best person to copy. I'm not an Olympic archer, right? So you shouldn't be copying me. So I don't do things perfectly either. But at the same time, I'm not teaching you how to shoot like me. I'll teach fundamentals. Sorry, the question was from sorry, I couldn't read your name there. Taistaluka. Why does it destroy shoulders? Yes, it puts the shoulders out of alignment, and it can put a lot of pressure on your shoulders and your rotator cuff, both sides, both ways, because you have to keep the normal correct way is to keep the front shoulder down, pull back, and load onto your back muscles. People who yank it down often are shooting very high draw weights. They can't pull it normally. They can't do it like this, so they have to go like that. So you're already putting a high strain on something which you can't normally use. And then you're doing it in the wrong way. And actually, the small thing with Lily was that I felt that she wasn't doing it right anyway. She said she was doing a high draw, but she actually drops down here, then pulls it back the last way. So it didn't really matter if you go like this or like this, but just an injury. So it kind of means a little different. But the point being is that this technique does not work for all people. In fact, it might not work for most people. Most people can make it work, but inherently it's an inferior technique for a different purpose. And again, the mistake which I think that Lily made was that she compared to Japanese archery, which my commentary is focused on. Actually, Japanese archery doesn't do it that way. They don't go like that. They start from here and then they roll this way, rotation. Similar to Korean archery, Korean archery does do this. They do start here and they go like that. But Korean archery stands differently. First, they anchor back here. Secondly, they're not side on, going like that. They're front on, nearly. Okay, nearly front on, because you're addressing the target. Tense your core muscles, and then you pull it back with a big torso rotation. So the muscle engagement is different. But the problem, therefore, is that if you don't teach the fundamentals behind why these techniques work, then the people are misled into thinking, I'm just going to copy this and do it like that. And it doesn't work. Yeah, Korean archery. Remember, Korean archery traditionally is not done in like target distance. They shoot like 110 meters away, so they have to high draw to hit a target. It's not a sky draw. They're aiming at a horseman-sized target at 100 meters away. Same with look at Bhutan archery or Mongolian archery. They're shooting at very long distances. They're basically meant for flight archery or long distance shooting, not for short distance shooting. It's unlike English longbow or modern longbow. So yeah, back to the question: why do I criticize other channels? I don't like doing so because people don't take it very well. People take it very personally, and it becomes very factionalized. It's kind of like my viewers versus your viewers, and I don't like that. I don't like having my viewers. I don't want to claim ownership of my viewers. I don't want to say there's like a new army or something. You do what you want to do. I don't care about that. But the reason why I do commentaries every now and then is because sometimes a high-profile person teaches the wrong thing, and their viewers don't recognize it is wrong. And because of that, there is potential flow-on effect, and people might go to me and say, explain this. I'll end this question, I'll end this note with a funnier point, alright? When I was watching Skulligrim's video on bows and melee, a lot of people, like hundreds of people in the channel, were talking about, well, why don't you just strangle the person with the bowstring? And to me, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'd rather smack someone with the bow, which you can't really do, than to strangle someone with a bow. How do you do that? Like, how do you get this thing around someone's neck and like choke them without them fighting back? It's just so stupid to me. And then I realized where it came from. I had no idea. I didn't know. So, as part of my archery pop shot series, I just started playing Tomb Raider. And Lara Croft's stealth kill with her bow is the string strangle. Oh my goodness! Now I know where it came from. Now it's a game. Games will stretch reality. That's true. A lot of things Lara Croft does is obviously fantastical. But that's the thing, right? That's the funny thing is, hundreds of thousands of players of Tomb Raider who've never done archery think you can strangle someone with a bowstring like that. And now I know where it came from. It's not Skargrim's fault. It's not anyone's fault. But this is the idea of being misled. When you have that much outreach and you include a very subtle thing where it's not quite right, there you go. Okay, so now part of my pop shots video is to debunk this whole stealth kill of your bow thing. How can you do that? How can a small young lady strangle a professional soldier, a mercenary, with a bowstring like that? That's ridiculous. But that's the thing, right? So that's the fun version. You know, why do I criticize these things? Because they mislead. So just to end that question from Mongoose, I personally don't like criticizing other YouTube creators. It's not my business, and I don't like doing it because again, people don't take it very well. But sometimes we forget our responsibility to provide accurate information to our viewers. And when the information we provide is inaccurate and potentially harmful, then I think someone should call them out. And it's not a double standard, because if I say something which is wrong and potentially harmful, you should tell me. You should call me out for it too. And sometimes these are honest mistakes and we learn from that. Sometimes our egos get in the way. And that's why these things don't work a lot of the time. If it's something we all learn from, then we should do it. If it's something that it's just going to take someone down and, you know, destroy someone, that's kind of the wrong mentality to take. And that ends my formal questions. So we've been at like an hour and 15 minutes. I do have a shoot tomorrow, plus like 20 essays to mark, so don't want to do that right now. But let's go through our last question. So if you have a question on the live stream, just ask now. I'm reading the thing right now. What is happening in the stream? Ask questions. What color combination would a bowstring be for strangling someone? Great question. Thank you, Zoga. I will toast you with that one. But the question is, what material would be the best strangling material? Because that can stretch it, right? So maybe you know, 8M25G might be a better strangling material. All right, where are we? Let's check the chat log. All right. Strangle with an arrow. I admit though, like the finishes that Lara does in Tomb Raider, the arrow are actually pretty cool. Like stabbing someone with an arrow in the kneecap, you know, thrusting through the throat. They're actually pretty good. The arrow kills are fairly accurate. If you had to use an arrow in melee, which you probably shouldn't, you go for the neck, you go for the throat, you go for the kneecap or something. Like the broadheads can slide through like tendons. Actually, it's actually a pretty good game. I actually really liked it. Very utilitarian, unrealistic, but a good game mechanic. And I'm someone who appreciates good game mechanics. Britannia, yeah, like the ancient Britons using modern fiberglass bows. No, one of my favorites. Hi, Speaky, by the way. One of my favorites is Ranger's Apprentice. I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned before, but if you check the covers of Ranger's Apprentice, the book series by I think Jack Flanagan or John Flanagan, I've got to show this to you because the original covers are freaking hilarious. Where is it? Ranger's Apprentice. If you read the series, say so in chat, because some of these covers are absolutely dismal. I gotta find these because the later ones are really good. Oops, I gotta find this. I gotta find the covers for this because the re-releases are much better. They're hand drawn. But the original covers, which you can't find anymore because they're kind of out of print, they're basically a model with a photograph of a cosplayer, basically. And, you know, this is kind of like the fantasy. Oh, here we go. This is going to... Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So I'm going to quickly flip over to my live stream feed. Anyone follow Ranger's Apprentice? Bing. Okay. So this is the original cover, right? This is the original... this is book 1 and 2. So this is what I mean. Let's just view this as a separate page, right? This is the cover for Ranger's Apprentice. Now, this is apparently a very successful children's series, but the thing, look at this, right? This is meant to be, you know, a fantasy, like I guess a European fantasy. Very much plastic veins on a what looks like a fiberglass arrow, or at least a wooden shaft at best. Using a prop bow. This looks like a real bow, by the way. It looks very much like my Istan Tough bow. actually might be a real horsebow. But it's a cosplay costume basically. It reminds me a lot of for those in Australia, the ABC shows. They're really low budget shows, which they dress up and they basically play out a story. That's kind of what it looks like. Now, that's the old kind of covers. The new covers are great. They're hand drawn. That's a nice story cover. That's a nice cover. That actually really is a nice cover. That is epic fantasy. That's awesome. The generic ones are still very good here. Same sort of idea. Like the covers are really nice. Good artwork actually. You don't see a lot of good archery artwork, especially on books. But a lot of these are really nice. It's a horsebow style, but a lot of fantasy is just horsebows, and you shoot horsebows on both sides anyway. But pretty good commentary there. It's a really nice series. I haven't read it myself, but a lot of people are, a lot of kids now. It's kind of the fantasy. So like before, it's like Harry Potter, before the Lord of the Rings and so on. But a lot of the kids now will read this, and the covers are really good. Look at this. The Emperor Nihonja is freaking epic. Very fantasy based, but that is still nice. But yeah, the original covers, like that's the original cover. There we go. That's what I was trying to find. This was this is book 1. Check the what the. Let's not do that. Oops, I don't want to do that. Yeah, that was let's just redo that. Sorry guys. Ranger's Apprentice. I lost the point on this, by the way. What's my point I was making? You sort of remember what the point was? Yeah, like this is basically it's the same one as the last time. So you have fiberglass arrows with plastic veins on the point there. So what was my point? I was making the point. What was my point? What was my question there? Help me. What point was I making? I got sidetracked by book covers. Help. What was I saying? I have no idea what I was saying. Can someone like replay the last minute? Because I can't remember what I said. Let's go. Something Ranger's Apprentice. Something. Something about the Tomb Raider I mentioned. Oh no, I remember what it was. Okay, it was Britannia, and it was fiberglass bows. Thank you. All right, phew. All right, right. Yeah. Okay, sorry. So yeah, Britannia, fiberglass bows. Thank you, Dominic. I got it. Yeah. Yes. So I was mentioning before how the funniest thing was like seeing like it was like seeing that cover. That just reminds me of the cover of Britannia. So it's very interesting to see that the series has taken off now, but the original covers are quite crap, honestly. By the way, yes, Andrew, we have in our library. We've got the whole series, I believe. Okay, where was I? What questions was I doing? I talked about arrow speeds, huh? We're past that. Depends on the bow. I said I said before it was an unanswerable question. You need to specify what kind of bow, what kind of arrow, because it's really hard to estimate. Let's see. Playing hunter, going up in poundage, make my arrows go further left rather than right. Why? I don't know actually. There's no real we need to like diagnose this properly. I can't just tell you from here. Normally go up in poundage will make the arrow go softer. Who knows? Might be clear instinct. Who knows? Spooky Gaming. I know you don't do compound, but would you do compound shooting with recurve? I have the opportunity to do so. There's a reason why I can't do compound. I don't think I enjoy it as much because a lot of compound is setting up. It's about getting the right release height, the right rest. There's too much fine tuning. I like simplicity, and the fact that I've now shot longbow feels great. Even horsebow. When I first started archery, I envisioned myself doing traditional. The fact that I shoot Olympic recurve as my main discipline is just like a circumstance. I shoot a club, which is Olympic recurve. But I've reached my milestone of shooting trad. I now shoot longbow, English longbow, Mongolian horsebow, and Olympic recurve, and trad bear bow. So all these things I now do, and I really enjoy it. So compound is like the antithesis of what I want to do. I don't enjoy it. Could I do it? Yes, but it'd be like a sometimes thing. I wouldn't really enjoy it. So yeah, even reviewing it's kind of I have to like get the bow, set it up, go to a shop. I don't want to do it. You know, it's just too much hassle. I just want to shoot a bow, and the bear bows and trad recurves are the best. I'm saying that as an Olympic shooter, I'm saying longbows, horse bows, trad recurves, they are the best to shoot because it's just pure fun. You know, there's no expectation, there's no tuning, apart from getting the right arrows, but you just fling arrows. You can't beat that. Favorite D&D class? I don't play D&D, so I have no favorite class. Well, I consider the gold tip spine chart accurate. Yeah, mostly. Like people say things like the charts are too stiff, even at Eastern. Maybe, but they're a very good starting point. But everyone says that the charts are too stiff, and I think it's generally better to shoot a shaft that is a bit too stiff than too soft. So it wouldn't be surprising that the charts are actually a little on the stiff side. And yeah, like Catherine said, they're guidelines, not rules, and always varies. Yeah, the reason why I'm starting the Tomb Raider pop shots is because of the movie. The movie is quite based on the game. I haven't seen the movie myself, and I don't want to critique movies yet, because I'll take forever like Avengers. But yeah, like, I'm hoping that the Tomb Raider movie that would generally see an increase in the game's interest, and therefore I want to cover the game because a lot of people know Archery from Tomb Raider because Tomb Raider the reboot basically made the bow the trademark weapon. It used to be the dual pistols from the original Tomb Raider games, but now it's like the bow is her iconic weapon. So it's actually interesting to implement that and talk about that a bit more. And yes, James, you are club president. I feel sorry for you. Okay. Yeah. Okay, James, president to president, oh, former president here, right? If you haven't seen the last half an hour, I'll just summarize. Right, I'm talking about things like volunteers and all that. Biggest thing, the biggest thing as club president is that you have to protect your volunteers. You have to protect your members. I say protection because a lot of people, they don't feel valued. People who do those small things like cleaning up need to be valued. People who volunteer as coaches or instructors need to be valued. You need to make everyone in your club, from your most important, a committee member who does everything by himself, to someone who just turns up and says hi, makes people feel welcome. Those things need to be valued. You as a leader, you are the club president, you are the captain of the ship. You have to be the morale booster, the motivator, and the go-to person. So you need to be the right person to trust, and you need to set up. You need to reinforce a positive environment, because people won't go to your club and won't stay in your club if they're just a number. Okay, that's my general thing. I want to take strong stance on things like protect volunteers. So say, I'm just a volunteer. I'm no longer a president or an important person in the club. I'm the senior archer, and I'm the person who needs to be protected because, okay, imagine, James. All right, this is the thing. All right, a good question is, imagine, James, that I'm in your club and I'm just a club member. But what you have under your roof or in your member base is potentially someone like me who was a very high profile influencer, someone who's a YouTuber, someone who has a very large connection, right? So if the club I go to doesn't support me, doesn't provide me enough opportunity to shoot, if I'm being kind of shoehorned into volunteering and teaching and I'm losing time and I'm feeling unhappy, then I'm going to leave. And with that goes a lot of the heart of the club, right? So you kind of need to think about how every person in your club could be a potential new sensei. Someone who is passionate enough, excited enough. But if you lose me, you've lost something very valuable. You've lost someone's future. That's how I see things. That's why I take things quite personally as a president, is that every single person who walks through my club doors needs to be treated as they are like the most important person, that they are so welcome to come, that they are free to learn from all of us. They can ask me any question they want because they don't get a chance to do so elsewhere. So for me, protect your members. Give them a reason to stay. You don't have to bribe them. You don't have to offer them things and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's so important So important that as a president, you value every single member in your club. It could be like 10 people, could be 100 people, but every person who joins your club is part of a new family. I'm not a family person. I'm kind of like anti-family. I'm not that close to people, but I want to make sure that even if I don't feel like I want to form a close bond to you, that I want you to feel like you can bond with our club. Clubs are seen as elitist and exclusive. You need to challenge that profile. That's my advice as a president. Yes, when am I going to internationals like Grizzly Gym? I pay for this stuff, right? So it's like, once I stop like sponsoring Grizzly Gym, maybe I'll go. I would like to. Just like at the moment, for me, I'm a teacher first. My job takes priority. Right? That's a personal thing too. I'm a teacher first, not an archer. So I'm not going to sacrifice my teaching career or take time off to do shooting. At some point, I will reach a level where I want to shoot at 3D events. I want to shoot at, in America. I want to shoot in Europe. When that day comes, then I'll take time off. I'll travel. I'll shoot. I'll enjoy something. But until then, that's not going to be my goal. I missed a question there. What's the poundage of the English longbow? Depends on which one, okay? Most ones you buy now can be anywhere from 30 to 60 pound. The war bows that we used back then could be up to about 150. So it's 80 for light ones, 100, 120, some 150. If you lost your job, would you become a modern Asian Robin Hood? Doesn't make any sense there. No, I wouldn't steal from people. Of course not. Let's see. Berlandi, what's a good score for an amateur shooting a 36 arrow in at 70 meters? Oh, sorry, round. Okay, good question. 36 arrows, so maximal is 360, 70 meters. Average person. Because 70 is hard, right? An average person wouldn't shoot 70 meters. So in that case, look, an average might be, I estimate that on average at 70 meters, the average person should be hitting around an average of 6, which means you might miss the target a few times. You will probably hit around the blue grouping or red grouping and maybe the occasional gold. So I'd say an average of 6 points per arrow at 70 meters is fairly average. Obviously the pros will hit like gold like most of the time. The average is like 9.7 or 9.5. But for an average person, between 6 and 7 is what I expect. That's kind of what I would do at 70 meters. Basically, miss like half my shots, but get like really good shots. So yeah, no, I'd say an average 6 or 7. So total score, well, you can do the math, right? So 36 arrows, average of 6. You can do your math yourself. That's kind of what I would be thinking would be a decent score for an average shooter. Am I thinking about doing the Olympic Games, Edward? It's an ideal. The reality is that I'm not trained to be an Olympian. I'm nowhere near a competitive level. I might have been really into it years ago, but my time as president has taken a lot out of me. My passion is in archery. That's a tough thing. Like people who compete, often I'm far more passionate than I am. Like archery is their life. They do every spare moment is training or doing SPT or something else. For me, I'm a teacher first. That is my dilemma. So again, I can always leave teaching and come back to it. I have my job secured for me. But at the same time, right, as a person, I teach. I'm inherently a teacher. It's what I am. It's not about do, it's what I am. So going competing, it's a nice thing to do, but it's something I would probably need to put far more effort into than to compete. So would it be nice? Yes, but I know it's not going to come to me in a silver platter. I've got to work for it. Let's see. Oops, sorry, missed some chat there. I saw a question before. So, what in my experience as instructors caused the largest influx of new archers? Probably Brave has been the last one, and Hunger Games. So, because especially for things like movies, for targeted towards young women or girls, because boys shoot things, they do sports. But influx, I don't really see a lot of influx, but it's mostly when a movie comes out and yeah, especially again the young girls. So Brave, Hunger Games is very big. Arrow and TV, back when I actually used a bow, now just guns. Yeah, like probably movies and TV shows. More so than anything else. The Olympic Games doesn't really bring a lot of people in. I see a spike in my channel when the Olympics are on, but not so much anything else. But man, I don't think Tomb Raider will provide people to come do archery, because there's a pretty big disconnect between archery clubs and pop culture. Like a lot of people don't know about clubs. That's the thing, right? So I don't really see an influx per se. Yeah, the Victorian style longbows are about 40 to 60 pounds, and nowhere near the war bows. Yeah, live stream is basically a podcast. Yeah, I'd like to try to do so anyway. When will I graduate to making my own bows? Honestly, I'm not a hands-on person. I don't do a lot of crafting or work, so I doubt I'll do that. I'm probably not that interested in archery to make my own bow. I know people would do. There are workshops to do so. It becomes the best things if I actually go through a whole. Like there are bow making courses here in Melbourne. So I could look one up and do it. Not sure if I actually would do so. And James, thank you, of course. No, good luck with your role as president, James. It's not an easy job. Some people do it very easily, and they kind of too casual to kick back. I was very ill prepared to be a president, so I did what I could, the best way I could, and now I've got a much more stable committee with somebody else in charge, and it's working quite well. A lot of it is follow your rules, follow your processes. Again, for me, as a person, I'm not into red tape or bureaucracy. For me, it's people. You've got to make sure the people are safe and welcome. Alright, any more questions? How much you missed? Like an hour and a half, Shalasa. Do I have to do monitor setup? No, I don't. Actually. Oh, one monitor. And what else? I think player hunter's having problems, but they're like going leftwards. Plucking could be a problem. Yeah, I'll play a hunter. Yeah, TV shows do generally see an increase, but I don't find to be an absolutely huge increase. I don't know. It has to really be a big hit show. Something like Lord of the Rings tend to be very good at that. But I don't find Arrow has really brought people to archery, because a lot of archery, so they did it at school or at a camp, and I want to do it somewhere else to try it again. So a lot of when people call me and say I want to do archery, it's mostly like their kids have always wanted to do archery, not because of a TV show, but because they've seen it somewhere, like a book or a game or a movie, and they just want to do it because it looks really cool. So there's no specific really big incentive or like drive to archery from what I found. It's a very slow growth and doesn't really jump up a lot. But okay, I'll say this. Probably in some ways, and not being arrogant here, but the fact that my channel exists might be pushing more people to archery. Because what I found, and the reason why I made a channel, is a lot of people are hesitant to try archery because they know nothing about it. They don't feel confident to ask about it. They don't know where to go or who to ask and what to say. So part of my own personal goal was to make the channel to provide that background, that information. So I have no numbers to prove this, but potentially people, clubs or organizations around the world might be seeing a general increase because my content makes archery more accessible. That's one of my education goals, is to make this more accessible to more people. So possibly there might be a driving factor. More people come to my club because of me, not because of me, but because they feel like they know what to do in the first day. That makes a big difference. Rick, good question there. Sorry. I always talk about feeling first as a coach. The question point there was like coaches always focus on my looks. Okay, this is a good point to make. This is one of my a very, very important question here. So a lot of people who are armchair experts, not in a bad way, but people who want to offer criticism to someone shooting will look at what they see. Because if a good example of this is back when I started shooting, I used to anchor kind of over here, and people say your anchor's too loose, and they always judge on what they see. They don't judge on why it's done. That's why I keep on saying, is that understand process, understand why it's done before you say it's wrong. As a coach, I will recognize certain things by sight, but over time, I've learned to recognize by feel. I can recognize what someone feels, not from seeing their muscles engage or the shoulders drop in line, but you can hear the sound of a good shot. You can feel the feedback of a good shot through somebody else. Okay, so when somebody, like one of my learners or students will do a shot, I will recognize through feel when the shot is good, and I'll ask them, how did it feel? Because I want to reinforce the feeling of a good shot, not the look of a good shot, the feeling of a good shot. I've had a lot of success in getting people to get that internal recognition, that reflection going. So the point that Rick made about feel is supremely important. And I think that's what divides an instructor from a coach. An instructor will show you how to do the steps and make sure you have the right finger pressure, to make sure you have the right shoulder and the right stance. All the superficial things are there. But for me, someone who wants to be coached by me, because I can teach people hold this, hold this, hold this, but be coached is do this shot. And when you do this shot, tell me how it feels. And they shoot and they go, how did it feel? And they look at me and I say, that felt, yeah, average. And I say, yeah, okay, do your shot again. But this time, do this. Move here, or it might be just hold it for 1 extra second. Or more recently, it might be visualize. Don't shoot yet. Stand there. Visualize your next shot. And when you feel ready, do the shot. And they go through the shot process. They smack the shot. Hits gold. They hold it there for a moment. And I ask them, how did it feel? Did it feel better? And I said, well, yeah, it felt better. I'll do it again. Always ask the person how it feels. Always. Don't tell them it's right. Ask them how it feels. This is the teacher side of me here, by the way. Okay, this isn't me like, by the way, your writing is crap. I'll fix it for you. No. I want you to read this yourself. I want you to tell me where you think it sounds weird. If they can't tell me where it sounds weird, then I'll guide them through it. I'll read it out loud, and if it sounds weird to you, then I want to highlight it. Okay, same sort of thing in archery. I can't tell you if it's wrong. I can actually, but I don't want to just tell you you're doing it wrong. I want you to feel why you're doing it wrong, and more important, I want you to feel when you're doing it right. That's the overall goal. Blind shooting, Rick? Yes, absolutely. I always make sure I teach people how to blind shoot. Very good for those who don't know, to warm up by going close to your target, closing your eyes and doing a shot. Because there's no distraction, you're not trying to hit anything there. So very important to feel the shot. At the same time, you should also recognize when you're doing with your eyes open. Because sometimes people can't connect what they're doing here to what they're doing here. So feeling is very important. It's been nearly 2 hours. Wow, hey, this is good. Alright, any other questions? Of course it's true, Andrew. We always try and make your students think. That's the whole idea. Like, it takes time to realize that, like, a teacher shouldn't tell you when you're wrong. That's the point of teaching. Like, if I tell you you're wrong, I'd be like your parent or something, right? I'd be like your tutor, just tell you you're wrong. But a teacher has to provide pathways. It's not about being wrong. It's about showing the way to fix that mistake and to find the right way. Whether you're a coach or a teacher or instructor, whatever you do, you need to be able to get people to help themselves. Because ultimately, the role of the teacher is to become increasingly obsolete. It's become increasingly redundant to the point where you don't need me as a teacher anymore, right? If you still need me as your teacher from year 7 to year 12, I'm doing it wrong, right? I'm making you depend on me. No. I don't want you to depend on me. I want you to depend on yourself. You have to be independent. All right. So if I make you like show me your work and I correct everything, or if you need me to verify every single shot you do, then I'm doing a bad job as a teacher. Alright, I'm basically making you say you need me to check. No, do it yourself. You need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, do your own shot, work without me. Use me as a guide and a mentor, but don't use me as a crutch. That's the point. No, I haven't covered angular motion. That's too big to cover into live stream. I don't have space to cover that, Morton. Alright, any other things? Training wheels, always a joke there. Come back, shoes, also to yourself. Alright, anything else? Oh, how many arrows? Sorry, Joseph. Sorry, how many arrows do you think you shoot? There's no need to shoot lots of arrows. You do as much as you think you should, and people, it's more about how regularly you go and shoot rather than how much you shoot. Okay, so I mean, a professional archer might shoot like 1,000 arrows a week, as a minimum, but doesn't mean you have to, right? So based on your time and your commitment, you shoot as much as you want. Make sure you give some time to rest between, because especially starting out, you're developing your muscles you don't normally use. Therefore, you should take your time. All right, but don't count arrows. Just do things. Like some people, if you're doing serious training, you will need to maintain arrow volume. Okay, so if you only shoot like 100 arrows a week, that's far too low to make progress. But for someone starting archery, shoot as often as you like, as often as you can, and enjoy it. When you start training for competition, then you need to maintain some standards. That's when, for example, today, in a thunderstorm, I still shot, which is probably a mistake, so I'll probably come down with the cold, but it was something I wanted to do, and I didn't want to make an excuse to not do it. That was my problem when I was going through the last 4 years. I was too stressed out and didn't enjoy archery. I made excuses to not do archery. I would literally drive to the club and then not shoot. What was the point? So I was coming with more excuses. Oh, I'm too tired, or too much work. I've got a lot of work right now. Like, I should be doing it right now, but I want to immerse in archery. So that's the sort of thing where you need to balance it out. Where if you motivate yourself to go and shoot, that's a good thing. If you need a reason, you're kind of like, well, I don't really want to, I don't feel like it, then you're going down that pathway of maybe you should take a step back. But my advice is shoot as much as you want, as much as you can. What's my favorite thing to put on the barbie? I'm personally a sausage person. Between like burger patties and sausages, I like sausages. I don't really eat a lot of them, but you know, the good old Bunnings, you know, snag. Yeah, I can't, you know, as an Australian, I need some claim to be Aussie, right? So I will pay my respects to the Bunnings snag. For those who aren't Australian, the Bunnings snag is a national dish. It is a delicacy amongst Australians. And if you come to Australia, you need to get a Bunnings snag. Aussies, you know what I'm talking about. Alright. Yeah, Cassim, good point. Ending your training on a high note. When I see someone who is having trouble shooting, bring it in. Do blind shooting. Like, make them in on the positives. Kind of like, if you shoot really well, then don't just like keep on shooting until you shoot badly. End on a high note. Especially if you're shooting a round where you can't control how many hours you shoot. Really encourage them or yourself to shoot of the best end you can. It might be one arrow. It might be one arrow that feels good. But make that arrow count. End on a high note. Feel good about it. A lot of us feel good, especially when you train. A lot of people become very negative and destructive themselves. It's an athlete mentality. It's a learner mentality. You know, like people don't feel good about what they do. So therefore, as a coach, and if you're watching this, Jake, same sort of thing here as a president, make sure everyone feels good about what they do. Even if they're having a bad day or a bad training session, make them feel appreciated, make them feel good about it. They'll come back and they'll come back and they'll be more likely to improve. All right, honest. The question there, sorry. Can I still make progress in Archer if I take winter breaks? No. No, that's really hard to make progress if you take long breaks, because you're kind of recovering from a break rather than making progress. Yeah, the thing to keep in mind with breaks is that archery is very easy to lose touch. And the longer you stay out of archery, whether for forced reasons like work or for seasonal reasons, then the more likely it is that you will lose touch of the smaller things. And you won't appreciate these things until you lose them, right? Good example is getting your anchor point right? It's not like riding a bike where you can do it. Like you would generally not forget how to use a bow, but the feeling has to come back to you. Your back tension, your elbow alignment, your anchor point. The longer you stay out, the more you go, this doesn't feel quite right, and it might take months to recover that feeling, and that therein is the problem. For the last 4 years, when I've been shooting in my lowest slump in form, that's what I struggle with, is trying to recover. I'm shooting back at my normal point now. So my average scores and ratings are where I was 4 years ago. It's taken me 4 years to go from slump to where I should be. And now I'm starting to progress. And during this point, I trained very infrequently. And because I wasn't training or shooting well, I had less motivation to go and train. So this is the problem that you have, Arnis, is that if you take long breaks, you're going to go through this very sloppy, high-low kind of cycle, which all archery is. It's not a linear progression. You don't grind, 100 arrows and get like a level up or something. But what you get instead is, like, you get some days or moments where you go really well, and then you go through kind of levels, and really high, and then levels. But if you take a break, everything drops. You don't retain much of your archery form if you don't use it. Okay, I reckon we'll stop it there. That is our nearing the 2-hour mark there. Oh, more questions. How many bows do I have? Oh, I didn't count. Oh my goodness. I've lost count now, guys. Too hard. A hard question, guys. Avoid. I don't know. I've got a lot now. Because there are bows which I receive for review and I keep, and there are bows which I buy. So I've completely lost count of my bows. I don't want to admit. But yeah. And yeah, Rocketfish, you're right. Sometimes, like, as an archer, you have to suck it up and go through it. As a coach, I can't say that. Right? As an archer, I will say, yes, sometimes you've got to suck it up. As a coach, I can't say that, because I've got my purpose to encourage you to, pick it up. I can't force you to. But sometimes you need some hard love, some tough love. But yeah. Okay, I reckon we'll stop it there. I haven't seen many drop outs recently. I can't answer that question. That is also classified. Anyway, thank you for joining me. This is one of our longer Q&As. I think last time I was feeling kind of really tired, so I kind of stopped it short. But now I am possibly going to have pneumonia because I shot in a thunderstorm, which is really bad. I want to shoot tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'm doing tomorrow. I want to shoot tomorrow. I'm going to shoot my recurve tomorrow. I might film it. Might not, actually. I haven't filmed myself shooting recurve for a while. Who knows? But yeah, last Sunday I shot in like 60-kilometer winds. That wasn't very fun. You would aim like off the target, a meter to the left, and it'll blow a meter to the right. So disastrous. But yeah, hopefully tomorrow's shoot goes well. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Hopefully you got your questions answered, and as usual, I'm using the Fivik Seika 2 now, actually. I used number 1, but I didn't like the palm plate, so I'm using number 2. And yes, good luck with all that, James, as always, your president. And goodbye, everybody. This is NUSensei, and I will hopefully see you next time.